Okay, welcome to this walkthrough of GCSE English Language Paper 1 in preparation for the exam on May the 23rd, 2024. Okay, so we're going to run through this paper, and although you might practice on different papers, this should serve as a reasonably good model to help you write your own answers. So we're working towards the 1 hour 45 time limit. If any of you have got more time, good for you. So the smart money is to start with question 5. Okay, so this is the biggest question on the paper. It's half your marks. 60% is for content, 40% is for your English, your SPAG. Timing is essential for this exam, for both the papers. So what we advise is at the start of the exam, write down at the top the time you need to finish this question. So we're looking at 40 minutes, maybe 45. I wouldn't go over that. And generally you have a choice between the description and the story. This one, the picture goes with the first option, which actually is a story, but normally that says description. I advise you choose the story. And the strategy for this question is to pre-prepare a high quality story that you've written, that you have crafted over a week or two before the exam. And you're going to try and memorize some or all of that. Okay, and it might be some of it, but even if you memorize a very good quality first paragraph, and you can probably remember the outline of the story you prepared, it's going to really help you get a good mark for this question. And very unlikely in my experience that you should get anything below a grade 4, certainly. And if you memorize, obviously, a well-written story, you could get a grade 9 quite easily, but most people can't do it. It's going to help. Okay, so we're going to show you how to write a good story. When you get the outline of the task you have in the actual, what you do is you amend your story slightly, you change perhaps a few sentences to include the theme or the thing that they ask you to do your story on. That's not going to be that difficult. It shouldn't be too difficult. The story could be on some of these themes. And you should be able to amend the story that you've pre-prepared fairly easy to include one of these themes, and it shouldn't be much of a challenge, to be honest. So how do you write a good story? Okay, so I'm going to show you a nice model for writing a good story. And obviously there are lots of ways to do a story, but this is a way that works pretty well for whatever grade of piece of work you're going to prepare. So we're going for 4 paragraphs. And this is how we're going to do it. So first paragraph, we're going to set the scene. Second paragraph, I'm going to give a little bit of background and move the story forward a little bit. Third paragraph is where we have an interesting incident. And finally, paragraph 4, we go back to the original setting. Of course, that's a nice circular structure there because we're going to end up where we started from. Okay, so broadly speaking, we're going to get lots of nice description in the first paragraph. Going to do a bit of narrative and background in the second. we're going to switch back to description for the third paragraph, and then back to narrative for the final one. So description obviously is lots of nice adjectives, adverbs, sense writing, some nice language features, make us feel like we're with the character. This one, we're kind of just telling the reader a bit of background about the character and moving things forward. We're stepping away from the action a little bit here, whereas here we're closer to it. We're zooming back into the action here, making us feel like we're with the character, slowing things down, describing everything. And here we're zooming out again, going a bit further away from the action and sort of resolving the story, resolving the tale, as it were. Okay, so we're looking at 40% for your English effectively and 60% for the content. And the content really relates to a nice structure, a nice evocative language, lots of nice language features, an engaging story that pulls the reader in and makes us feel involved and close to the action. Something that's compelling. So it should pull you in, have a little bit of tension and a bit of variation in mood, making us want to read it. Okay, I'm going to stop waffling on. Let's actually write a first paragraph. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of a good opening paragraph. Now I'm going to write in the first person. I recommend that, but if you'd rather write in the third, then that's your choice. Okay, off we go. So we're going to set the scene. Rested and recovered, I woke up. Pulling the curtains gently back. Soft sunlight. Bathed my face warmly. As I looked outside, the tall trees swayed peacefully in the breeze. I could smell the appetizing scent of breakfast. Let's say breakfast washing over me. It's made me hungry. Nearly finished. Okay, let's have some other senses. What can we hear? The morning birds sang like an orchestra. Into my ears. I felt positive peaceful and relaxed. Okay, nice and easy. So the first paragraph is the most important one because that's going to be the one which you most likely are able to remember. So you've got to try and squeeze as many language features and as many elements of good English in there as you can. Maximize your marks. Even if you did a mediocre story for the rest of it, you've done so many good features in and first paragraph like this that you should be getting a good mark for this question. So let's just look at what we've got. Okay, so rested and recovered. So it's a nice bit of alliteration there. And that's a nice sentence form. A nice clause there. We said that and we've got a little comma there. Pulling the curtains gently back. So nice descriptive language there. I think I'll underline these actually. Let's see. Nice sentence, nice clause there. Descriptive language. Guess what? Alliteration again. So we're maximizing our language features, squeezing this into the paragraph that we're going to memorize. Bathed my face, that's a metaphor. Warmly, descriptive language. Nice little clause there. Tall trees, alliteration. Swaying peacefully, descriptive language. Again, could smell the appetizing scent, appetizing, descriptive language. Washing over me, metaphor. Getting all these language features in, guys. Advanced punctuation there. Getting us all extra marks. This. The morning birds, descriptive language. Sang like an orchestra. Great. Simile. First one. I felt positive, peaceful, and relaxed. So I guess we've got a bit of alliteration there. And rule of three. So that's going to get us a nice treasure trove of marks there. And it's definitely worth pre-preparing this. You literally can be reading this in the corridors before you go in the exam. So it's realistic to think you're going to be able to remember a lot or all of that. And that's going to really help taking the pressure off if you've done a good question 5. Okay, so we're not going to model this whole question. But what we'll be looking at is paragraph 2, a bit of background. So I always recommend writing a story that's close to your own life, because that's the easiest thing to write. You're familiar with it. It doesn't take too much imagination. So perhaps this paragraph you'd be saying, as an 18-year-old, I knew Wednesdays were a tough day. I had to go to university all day, but I reluctantly got out of bed, got ready and got the bus. So we're not zooming in to describe how we feel and all the descriptive language of that detail there. We're simply stepping back a bit and moving the action forward. Then when we get to paragraph 3, we'd zoom back in and try and get right close to the action again. And the phrase I'd use is, you want to make the reader feel like they are in your shoes. That's why we're doing a lot of sense writing. What we can smell, what we can feel, what we can hear. That makes the reader feel like they're with you. So they're very close to the action there. And that's what I'm talking about when we say description. So we're going to get close to the action again in this paragraph. What I'd recommend for that paragraph is a slightly interesting incident. Now, That doesn't mean doing something too dramatic. Definitely don't do zombies, UFOs, it was all just a dream, murders, something extreme, okay? Because that's much harder to write. What is worth considering is doing an interesting incident that's just slightly out of the ordinary for this normal day that you are describing, okay? So something like you met somebody who seems interesting or a bit bizarre or a bit different to normal. Maybe they connect with you, maybe they say something interesting to you, or just give you an interesting look. So you're having a normal day, set the scene, who are you, move it forward, an interesting incident, you meet somebody interesting, and then you go back to your original setting, thinking about how the day was kind of a bit different. And yeah, what happened today was, it just stays with you and makes you reflect a bit on what happened. Other interesting incidents that are not too big: passing your driving test, passing an exam at college, missing an exam, being given a job, finding some money. So an interesting incident that's not too big. Okay, so if you can remember the whole story that you are hopefully going to write in the week or weeks before the exam, then fantastic. You could work with your teacher to craft a good story. And if they help you, then maybe you'll learn some new vocabulary. That's a perfectly reasonable way to do things. A lot of people like using AI. And when teachers mark work that is AI generated, it's pretty obvious because they write in a certain way. But if you do use a story you've got from AI, then I guess you are learning new vocabulary, you're learning new literary techniques. So that's a legitimate thing to do. I think it's always better to memorize one you have written because it's more easy to kind of absorb because you've written it. That process has kind of gone into you. Anyway, that is the plan for question 5. Memorize a story before you go in. Okay? Right. Last thing to mention, check your work at the end. The most common mistakes are not doing paragraphs and writing I, as in I, he, she, we, not writing I as a capital. So check it all through. Check your spellings, check your paragraphs, punctuation, grammar. And put a title. Probably at the end, I would put a title on the story. So 40 minutes doing question 5. Should be feeling confident if you've used that strategy. Okay. Question 5. So the agree or disagree question. Okay, so you have a statement that you're going to agree with or disagree with. So how do we do this? Right, well, timing first of all. After question 5, read the statement. This is always very similar. You're welcome to read it. Obviously, it's advisable to read it, but this is basically what you're looking at. So read the statement, then read the text. Give yourself 5 minutes to have a good read of that text. If you follow these tips accurately, you shouldn't be worrying about time, especially if you've pre-written a story and got that down for question 5. You should be within time. So have a read for 5 minutes, and then you're going to do your written answer. 20 to 25 minutes. So it could be half an hour in total. Obviously, if you've got more time, extra time, then you will have a bit extra. If you do this question well, and you've done question 5 well, you really should be relaxing and feeling confident. This and question 5 together are 75% of your marks. So it's very difficult to fail if you do these questions well. So we've read the statement, then we read our source. And what you're looking for is the thing you are going to agree with or disagree with. Okay, so in this one, it's about a woman who is an archaeologist and she's digging for treasure in the Pyrenees. So the question is asking you, is the part of the story that you're reading very mysterious? And is her discovery, because she finds something buried, is it potentially life-changing? So there's always two things pretty much you're looking for. Sometimes there's one, but there's normally two. So all you do for this question is make sure you know what those things are you're being asked to agree with or disagree with. You then go through the text and underline or highlight anything which can support the idea. In this case, the idea that it's mysterious or that her discovery is life-changing. So you're going to highlight or underline anything which can support that. Now, for this question, you're looking for 3 paragraphs, really, 3 PEEs, if you work like that. So you only need to find 3 things. So you might, okay, you might circle this bit. Yeah, this is mysterious. You might circle a different bit here. Oh, right, that implies it is life-changing, which is what it asked us about. Okay, let's actually find one that really supports that. So what part of the text is it? Line 21 onwards. Okay. So let's go for a relatively easy one so we can understand it. She noticed something glinting beneath a large boulder. Okay. So something glinting. Let's see if we can craft that into our answer. So relatively straightforward to write the answer for this. So let's get that text up there so we can see it. So the way you write it, I agree. Then refer to the thing that you're agreeing with. It is mysterious. Then we're going to put our quote, something glinting beneath a large boulder. Okay, so you do have to refer to the methods used in this question. So I'm going to put that in right after the quote. You could put it before, we could put it after. I'm going to put it here. So let's say imagery. Imagery is anything that gives the reader an image, so it really covers a lot. So this is an easy win for this paragraph. This imagery tells us there is something buried which she can only see a part of. That it is glinting. Okay, so what glints, what reflects light like that? It's something like a metal, isn't it? So it could be something valuable. This implies it could be valuable, like a precious metal, which adds mystery, as this would be something Alice would want to continue to dig for. The fact she can't see it all makes it more mysterious. So because she can't see it all, it adds mystery because she doesn't know what it is. And the fact that it is potentially something valuable buried adds mystery because you only are drawn into a mystery if it's something of interest and something that might suit your needs or serve a purpose. And obviously if it's valuable, then it would. This is just a simple example. The questions you will be doing will be different, but the point is we've got our agree or disagree, and we've stated what it is linked to in this statement. We've got our quote. Here. So if you work into PEE, obviously there's your point, there's your evidence, and we've got our language feature here. I'm just going to highlight that in red just because not everybody remembers to do that. So let's do that. So if you refer to the methods that the writer uses, and referring to language feature is the easiest way to do that, you will get extra marks. So we've got a nice simple PEE with a good explanation there, and we've slipped in a reference to a language feature. So the point is we've explained it thoroughly, and you might have to stretch your imagination to explain why you agree with it, but as long as you can make a good case in your explanation, then you should get marks for it. So that's how you write each point, and we're looking for 3 nice paragraphs or 3 PEs for that, for the 20-mark question. 4 is even better, of course. If you did 2 really good ones, then you could be getting a nice mark for that. It all comes down to the detail, and do you mention a method? Language feature is the easiest way to do that. When you're doing each point, you could even do another quote towards the end. I could have mentioned something a bit more here about how there's a big boulder hiding. Let's just get that. How there is a boulder hiding this discovery, as if someone's hidden it. So you can always slip another quote in it towards the end of the paragraph, but if you do a nice simple PEE there and you mention a language feature, you should be getting a great mark for that question. The level of detail and the number of points obviously will determine whether you would get a 4 or a 9. This kind of answer done well is going to pitch you at least at a 5, probably about a 6. If you would like a higher grade, then I would slip another text reference or quote towards the end of the same point and just explain it a bit more. Okay, so 25 minutes 5 minutes reading, 25 minutes actual writing. I guess that would come to 30 minutes. If you were doing that, you might do it a bit less. But that's the kind of timing you're looking for. And you should be feeling really confident having done question 5 and 4 really well. Bear in mind, there'll be stuff in the text you don't understand. They do that on purpose. Be prepared for that, and obviously skip any words you really don't get. And there will be words like that. Okay, so the idea is you try and understand enough of it by understanding the words around what you're reading, but don't go for the difficult words. Right. What's next? I guess we could do question 2, language, or 3, structure. It doesn't really make much difference. You're well over halfway. I mean, you're looking probably about half an hour left. So 40, 45 minutes on question 5, 25, maybe 30 minutes on question 4. So you've got about half an hour left. You're going to split question 3 and 2. You've already read the document, so you should be able to do some of this quite quickly. And these are not high mark questions, so the stress levels should be going down by now. You've done 75% of the exam. So we're looking, I guess, 10 to 15 minutes. If you want to be accurate, I would suggest 12. Or question 3. The structure question is the one most students in the country mess up because they simply can't remember what structural features are. Most people can remember what language features are, but not structural features. So we're going to just go over that now. So the easiest structural features: opening, focus shift, ending. Now, there's lots of others. Foreshadowing, time shift, pace, dialogue, and so forth. Okay, if you're going for a grade 6 to 9, you're going to need to know some of these. These are the easiest ones to get this question passed. Now, it's relatively straightforward. All you need to do is to refer to these elements of the passage and give us some detail about what is happening. So structure is basically questioning why the piece of writing has been put together as it has. Why is it being built as it has, with one layer here and another layer there? Why did they put that bit of detail there or there? And how does it affect the flow and the build of the piece? So we'll just do the opening, relatively straightforward. So it tells us that Alice is in very hot environment and is extremely thirsty. A second, let's get this camera sorted right. So that's just giving us a little bit of detail about what happens at the start. Let's give a little bit of information and a little bit of text reference. So she's so thirsty, she's drinking down in great gulps. So let's put that in. Okay. So we can see it says the sky is an endless blue. So that's quite a sort of warm and opening and a positive mood and a scene which is being presented there. So just a bit of detail. I would always say try and get a couple of things when you're discussing these structural features. Try and mention a couple of things. So we've got a very hot environment. She's extremely thirsty. We've put a reference in there, a quote, and we've said that it's welcoming blue sky. We'll just change the word of the endless blue, and that is enough to discuss the opening. Okay. What you do then is try and look at the focus shift, which is a very easy structural feature to refer to. That is where the writer shifts their focus, changes what they are focusing on in the writing. So that's the scenery analysis introduction, I guess, her first. And then the second paragraph, where it's easy to find a shift. So the second paragraph, there normally is a shift. It's telling us exactly where she is. And it's giving us more detail on the scenery, a lot more detail. So the focus shifts on line 5 in paragraph 2 to give us more detail on our setting. You could talk about a paragraph here. Okay, the focus shift here. So this focus shift, they're moving away from Alice and they're talking about her colleagues, and it mentions Sheila. So the point is, focus shifts just mean the writer is talking about something else. So referring to a focus shift for your second point is an easy win, really. So in paragraph 3, there is a focus shift. It tells us, and so on. It's telling us about her colleagues and how Sheila is in a black outfit. Just give a couple of bits of detail. If you wanted to get more marks, then you can obviously expand upon what your reference to the text is telling us. So you can always drill down for more detail. So let's just do that just to give you an example. If you want to get something certainly above a 5, definitely above a 6, the imagery of her taking great gulps tells us she may be dehydrated. As if she hasn't had time. She's doing something that's taking all the time up. She hasn't had time to drink. That will do, because we've mentioned the language feature, which you can always bring into all these reading questions. But the essential thing is, guys, we've got these structural features. Okay, and this is what we're going to be making sure we refer to. Try to get 3. Okay, so you're looking for 3 paragraphs, 3 PEEs, where you mention your structural features. Okay, and we've done question 3. 12, maybe 15 minutes. We're feeling pretty confident. Now we're going to move on to everyone's favorite language features. We've probably got 20 minutes left in the exam. So page lines 3 to 5. So let's have a look at these lines. Which interesting words should we pick out? So 5 to 11 is there. You might have your highlighter. I'm just going to underline. So pick out words that are colourful, that are not just literal, something that makes the writing interesting. So she's at home. That's quite interesting. Jagged peaks of the mountains. Okay, delicate flowers. So there's lots of simple descriptive language you can pick out here. And the part they ask you to look at, there should be lots of opportunities to pick language, pick interesting words out. The flowers are peeping out from their hiding places. Oh, why are they hiding? Interesting. Great expanses, that's quite difficult. Skip anything you feel is really difficult. The sun has flattened the land into submission. Inhospitable, that's an interesting word. That last sentence is really interesting. Secrets, a place of secrets. Okay, that will do. So what am I going to pick out there? Right, well, the easiest language features amongst the many that you could pick out are as follows. Positive, negative language. Descriptive language. Similes. Imagery. Those are the easiest four. And obviously there are a basket full of language features. I think if you can get your head around what a metaphor is, that's going to come in useful. But I'd say you really need to know these four, and that will be enough. If you want to revise pathetic fallacy, personification, all the rest, then that's fine. But this is enough. Okay, so let's put that observation to the test. What should we pick out? So many interesting things here. Jagged. Okay, well, let's go for jagged, or shall we go flatten the land in submission? In an exam, obviously, you're going to look for at least 2 good language features to comment on, ideally 3. So we'd probably do a few of these. Let's go for jagged peaks first of all. So what is that? I guess that is descriptive language. Of course it is. Jagged is an adjective. You could say it's negative, it's slightly ugly. And anything that gives you an image is imagery. So let's just stick with descriptive language. The descriptive language, jagged peaks, tells us the setting has a sense of great size, because a peak is the top of a mountain, isn't it? Also a sense of danger, something that is jagged can potentially be dangerous, can't it, and cut you. Sense of danger and threat. The jagged peaks would look unusual, even disconcerting, or even threatening, because they appear slightly ugly and irregular shaped and dangerous, sharp. Knives are sharp, aren't they? And jagged things that are weapons can be jagged. So that will do for that one. So as you can probably see there, it's nice, simple. Oh, a bit wild there. Right, a nice, simple P, E, and then onto our explanation. So gives us a sense of great size. So that's one observation. That's probably what you get from a grade 3 or maybe even a grade 4 offering, but we've gone further than that. A sense of danger, threat, jagged peaks, they're unusual, even threatening. So we've got 5 small observations there. The point is, when you explain what the words mean that you've picked, try and get several observations. Don't just pick one. So if we were going to talk about the sun has flattened the land into submission, so you could say imagery, that's a metaphor as well, negative language. You could say, this tells us the sun is extremely hot. Right, that's a nice simple observation. It tells us it's hot. It tells us the land is scorched. Let's go further than that. Let's look at the actual words. It's used force and kind of dominance to almost defeat the land as if it was a fight or a competition. And it's come out victorious in a ruthless, even cruel way. It's flattened the land. It hasn't just affected it, it's flattened it. So it's almost destroyed the land. So you're trying to pull out all those different meanings from the words. Look at the words and try and get several meanings from the words. That's the aim of discussing the use of language. The idea is the language that has been used is somehow really clever, and you can pull out all these wonderful different interpretations that make it good to read. Okay, so you're looking for at least 2 good paragraphs there, ideally 3, but as just discussed, quality, not quantity, is the important thing. Make sure you stay within your time. That's essential. The grammar and spelling for these questions does not matter as long as it's understandable. So you shouldn't be worrying about that. Right. Then we're on to question 1, which is insanely easy. And I'm not even going to bother going through that much. It's always from the first few lines and you're literally repeating the information. That's the paper covered, guys. So just to recap, start with question 5. You should have a story prepared. Craft a story over the week or weeks for the exam. Get plenty of descriptive language and language features in. Even if you don't remember all of it, that should be helpful. And you might just get a brilliant first paragraph in. Whatever they ask you to write about in the outline, you just amend your story slightly. And that is doable. You're looking at just changing 2 or 3 sentences to fit the outline they give you. So 45 minutes, then you're on to question 4. read the statement, read the text, look in the text for the things it's asking you to agree with or disagree with. Highlight or underline them on the text. And then you're just going to say whether you agree or disagree with your evidence and a nice explanation. And if you can, which you should be able to, refer to a language feature with reference to your quote that you used there. Question 3, structure. Opening, focus, shift, ending are the easiest structural features. Give us a couple of bits of information that is linked to that structural feature. Put a quote or a text reference in. If you have time, you could refer to the language feature, but that is not essential. You're basically just telling us what these structural features, what purpose they serve. A couple of bits of information. 10 to 15 minutes on that. Same for question 2. You just choose your quote, label with the language feature, then explain in as much detail as you can, giving several different interpretations of the words. Generally speaking, most students are going to panic a bit in the exam, probably at the start. So be aware that is going to happen. Be prepared that is probably going to happen to you and is normal. But if you've done enough effective revision, just take some deep breaths, settle down, and your revision work and your methodologies, having done lots of good practice, should come back to you. Okay, guys, good luck to you all. See you soon.